You're safe with me. Let's go. Then, effortlessly, he lifted her into his arms. Isla gasped, not from fear, but from the shock of being held. Her body, frozen after an hour in the snow, offered no resistance. Her legs were stiff as ice pillars, her fingers numb, every breath a jagged whisper. She should have pulled away. Instead, she trembled against him, because a deeper part of her needed this. Malcolm Brooks had seen her through his Bentley's windshield, half hidden by snow and city lights. The night had grown heavy, restlessness driving him until he spotted her, curled on a metal bench at the Commonwealth Avenue stop, wrapped in a thin lavender dress and frail gray cardigan, shoulders shaking, head bowed in defeat. He didn't hesitate. The wind cut at him as he stepped out, but he barely felt it. He crouched, noticing the soaked canvas flats fused to the ice and the dead phone in her lap. He whispered again, "You're safe with me. Let's go." When her eyes flickered toward him through the snow, he scooped her up, gentle, reverent. Inside the car, warmth flooded in. The heater hummed as classical music drifted softly. Malcolm buckled her in. She leaned into the curve of the seat, her cheek resting against his coat. She whispered, "You didn't have to." "I know," he replied, engine quiet and steady. "But I did." Snow blurred the streetlights outside. Leather and cedar filled the cabin. Her breath smoothed. "Missed the last bus. Tutoring near Dorchester," she added. He nodded. "Happens." She managed a brittle laugh. "You pick up strangers like me often?" He didn't meet her eyes. Only the ones freezing in party dresses. She let out a breath halfway between a smile and a sob. "Isla. Malcolm. Where are we going?" "Somewhere warm. Safe." She closed her eyes. The cedar would code a quiet promise. For the first time in days, her body let go. The world outside blurred into falling snow as Malcolm Brooks drove. Inside the car, warmth curled around them like a blanket. Isla's eyes fluttered shut. Her breaths evened out. The cold lifted from her limbs, just as his hands remained steady on the wheel, focused yet unheroic. A man who once stood in darkness, now refusing to let anyone else do the same. He eased open the door to a hush of golden light. Velvet warmth seeped in as he carried her inside. Her shoulders shivered. She clung to him until he set her down. He didn't need to say anything. The living room was quiet grandeur, not opulent, but lived in. Soft recessed lights gleamed on wooden floors. A gray couch faced a stone fireplace, its flames dancing gentle relief. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined the back wall, snowflakes still clinging to them, the city skyline glimmering beyond. Malcolm tucked a folded throw over her knees. Her fingers closed around it, clumsy from cold and shock. He disappeared briefly, then returned carrying a mug that steamed with promise. "Ginger tea," he said. "No caffeine. It'll warm you up." She accepted it. Their hands brushed. She despised the cold clam in her skin, hated feeling like a burden, but the tea's warmth seeped into her fingers, then her chest, a quiet spark in the gloom. Her throat burned in the best way. "You didn't have to do all this," she murmured, eyes fixed on the amber glow of her cup. He stayed crouched at her side, voice low but unwavering. "I didn't do anything heroic. I just didn't want you to die in the snow." She gave a fragile laugh, one part relief, one part disbelief. "Well, when you say it like that," he offered a small, honest smile before he stood and drifted toward the kitchen. Left alone, she let her gaze wander. Shelves of books lined a window nook, a record player waiting in silence. Above the fireplace hung a black and white photograph, an older woman in scrubs, smiling in front of a petite clinic. A voice came from the kitchen. "That's my mother." Isla turned. He leaned in the doorway, a dish towel draped over one arm. "She worked in community clinics. Passed when I was 17. She whispered, "I'm sorry." He nodded, then appeared beside her with a plate, toast smeared with almond butter, topped with banana slices, humble, but to her, a feast. She hadn't eaten since lunchtime. The first bite sent warmth rolling through her chest in waves. He sat quietly, perched on a nearby chair's armrest. The silence wasn't emptiness, it was peace. "I tutor kids in the evenings," she said softly. "I had a full day of classes, then 2 sessions. The youngest was stuck on long division. I couldn't just leave him." He watched her, observing like she'd watched him. "You help people, even when it costs you?" She chewed slowly, considering. "Isn't that what we do?" He didn't reply. The fireplace crackled, and between the embers and steam, they sat, a moment of shared quiet understanding. Morning light crept in slow and quiet, as if testing the house before fully waking it. Breath and firelight filled the room. Beyond the windows, winter's hush still lingered, but inside, peace reigned. For the first time in days, Isla's body relaxed. Her eyes closed, breath steadying, the storm outside a distant echo. Sleep took her with a grace she hadn't felt in years. Soft beams touched her face. She stirred, buried beneath layers of blankets, and blinked at an unfamiliar ceiling. A moment of blankness, then memories flooded back. Cedarwood coat, cold bus stop, someone's hand warming her. Her muscles burned, not with pain, but with relief. Her soaked lavender dress had been replaced by clean clothes folded neatly on a chair, evidence someone had been quiet, early, tender. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, bare feet brushing hardwood, clothes slipping loose as she stretched. Quiet in the hallway. The scent of coffee and something sweet beckoned. She eased into the kitchen and paused behind Malcolm, who stirred something at the stove. A white tee and gray sweatpants replaced his Bentley suit. He looked human again, not the tech mogul stories. He sensed her. Turned. Morning. Morning, she answered, voice fragile but present. Sleep okay. Better than I have in weeks. He motioned to the counter. Oatmeal and coffee. Nothing fancy. She slid onto a stool and watched, the deliberate way he wiped the coffee cup's rim, the soft check of the burner before he stepped back, the sugar bowl offered without question, knowing she might need it. She sipped, just how she liked. Warmth blooming inward. You always cook breakfast for strangers? She teased, half laughing. He lifted an eyebrow. You're not a stranger anymore. The words hung between them, warm, weightless, like they were the only thing either needed to say. They ate in companionable silence, only the clink of spoons and occasional sigh marking the space. It felt like an old diner at dawn. Two people too tired for conversation, but not for presence. After a moment, she spoke. I should get going soon. Class this afternoon. He nodded, voice steady. I'll have the driver take you. She hesitated. You don't have to, I can manage. He remained calm, unwavering. Trains are still delayed. Roads clear. No trouble? She didn't argue. Something in his tone made it hard to say no. Her gaze drifted across the sunlit room. This place, it's beautiful, but doesn't feel empty. He shrugged. It's lived in, that's all. She looked at him. You live alone? He met her eyes, always have. Something flickered, an echo beneath composure. My mom lived alone too, she whispered. After my dad left, she raised me, nights at the pharmacy. Always tired. He nodded, voice gentle, mine too. In Baltimore. She passed when I was 17. Her throat clenched. I'm sorry. She was tired, he said. But she never let it show, except in quiet moments, staring at nothing. Some days, the world got too heavy. She gripped her cup. I know that silence. They paused, sharing unspoken understanding. He set his bowl aside and met her gaze. That coat last night, it wasn't enough for the cold. Eyes dropped. It's all I had. Money's tight, I send most of it home. No pity in him, just listening. I don't usually get stranded, she added. I stayed for one of my students. He struggles with math. It reminded me of me at 10. His jaw shifted in what she recognized as respect, the kind she'd never been given. You didn't want to leave him. No. He needed someone to believe. He nodded then stood. You should shower, if that's okay. Under the sink towels. He gave her a soft cue. Rest, care, space. She left, and he watched her go, half-empty bowl at his feet. Guest room door closed behind her. His apartment, once quiet, never empty, felt fuller, more himself. In the steamy bathroom, she saw her reflection. Tired eyes, chapped lips, color returning to her cheeks. She didn't know what last night, or this morning, might lead to. But she didn't feel the need to run. And that for now was enough. Drink something. Eat something. Rest when you can. Isla read the note again, heart twisting in ways her mind didn't approve. She prided herself on independence, not swooning over luxury or comfort. Yet here she was, thinking of Malcolm, his gentle gaze across the counter, the framed photograph of his mother, their quiet moments together in his kitchen. In Professor Holbrook's lecture on equity, she tried to focus. But her eyes kept drifting to the familiar warmth of his apartment, each memory tugging at her resolve. As classmates gathered their things, Tasha slid in beside her. So, you and Malcolm Brooks, huh? Isla looked up sharply. We're not. Tasha's smirk said more than her words. She'd spotted the way they left the car. Just seemed cozy. Isla packed up, blood burning under her collarbone. Not embarrassment, exactly, but a sharp sting. She didn't realize how much being seen had hurt, until she felt small again. Later, at the tutoring center, she smiled and coached through long division, but her mind floated. Every so often she caught Eli's unfinished questions dissolving into her exhaustion. By the time her last student left, She collapsed into a chair, snow glittering against the night sky visible through the window. Her phone buzzed. "Malcolm, how was your day?" She stared at the screen. She didn't want to admit she felt fragile and small beside him. So she typed, "Busy, tired, still alive." Seconds later, "That's not enough. Let me pick you up." Her thumb froze. Messages this urgent were rare. She shouldn't say yes, but her fingers moved, typing, "Okay." 30 minutes later, she slid into the passenger seat. The car's warmth pressed around her like a familiar embrace. "You look exhausted," Malcolm said as he started the engine. "I am," she admitted, voice thin. They drove without speaking. He pulled into a quiet diner just out of the city, where the smell of melted butter and cinnamon wrapped around them. The waitress greeted Malcolm by name. They slid into a secluded booth. "You come here often?" she asked. "When I can't sleep," he replied, unfolding his napkin. "Most nights." She studied him, suave suit, calm exterior, yet beneath it, a restless loneliness, one she recognized in herself. "My mom used to take me out, just pancakes," she said quietly. "Once a month, to pretend it was special." Malcolm nodded. "Me too, fried chicken in the parking lot. No music, just streetlights." Silences weren't empty, they were rich with memories. Over coffee and pancakes, she told him about Louise, the student who cried, "Am I too dumb for decimals?" Isla taught her affirmations, tiny spells against shame. Malcolm listened like revealed gold. On the drive back, snow drifted slowly through traffic lights dancing on her face. "Do people misread you?" she asked. "All the time," he said quietly. "How do you handle it?" she pressed. He sighed. "I remind myself they don't define my story. Harder than it sounds." "I'm not good at it," she laughed. At her dorm door, he leaned across his seat. "Text me when you're inside." She nodded. Inside her coat, his scent, and something new settled in her chest. Between fear and longing, she realized she was standing at the edge of two worlds, surviving and perhaps, finally, beginning to live. Snow lay soft and weightless on the rooftops outside, but inside the apartment was quiet warmth, alive with breath and firelight. Isla sat on the couch, wrapped in his coat, hands cradling a lukewarm mug of tea untouched. Her eyes were puffy, not from tears, but from exhaustion that had seeped into her bones. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, stray strands caught in the slant of afternoon sunshine. Her voice hadn't fully returned since last night. She slept, yes, but not peacefully. And Malcolm, he hadn't slept at all, drifting through the night until he heard her breathing settle. Now, they were together, but something was slipping between them. "Thank you for letting me stay," she murmured, voice low. He turned, studying her posture, arms folded across his chest like armor. "You don't have to thank me, Isla." She managed a faint smile. "I think I do." She stood, setting the mug down with care. She'd changed back into her own clothes. Clean, but thin, the sleeves tugging at her wrists and shoes too worn for someone who had to rely on them. He watched her shoulder the bag and move toward the hallway. Every instinct told him to stop her, to spill the words he'd held back for weeks, but his mouth stayed shut. Isla paused at the door, turning back. "Do you know what the hardest part is?" He hesitated, silent. "It's not the money, or the cold, or even the loneliness," she continued. "It's that when something good shows up, I don't know how to trust it." Her voice didn't break. It didn't need to. "I spent years believing that if I kept my head down, worked hard enough, life would change. But it never did. I just got better at pretending I was okay." He took a step forward. "You don't have to pretend here." She nodded, stepping closer. "That's what makes this so hard. Here, at Wash Nasty," she looked at him, raw. "I've started to care about you." His breath caught. She continued, "And that scares me, because I don't know what I am to you. A guest? A project? Someone you saved on a snowy night because you couldn't save someone else." He flinched, barely, but she saw it. "I'm not her, Malcolm. I'm not your mother." "I know," he said softly. "I don't want you to be part of someone else's redemption story. I just want you for you. Messy, loud, tired, hopeful you." She shook her head. "You don't say it." He swallowed. "Because I don't want to ruin it." "You don't ruin something by naming it," she said. "You ruin it by making someone guess." Silence hung between them like a tightrope. Then she reached up, took his hand. "I love you, Malcolm." He froze, eyes wide. She pressed on. "I think I have for a while now. But I need to know if we mean something beyond warm coats and guest rooms." He looked down, then back at her. The fear in his eyes wasn't rejection, it was vulnerability. And he didn't speak, and she understood that was his answer. Softly, she kissed his cheek. "Goodbye." Without another word, she opened the door, stepped into the hall, and closed it behind her. The click echoed, a breath finally released. Malcolm stood frozen, hand inches from the door, lips parted like he might call after her, but he didn't. Minutes, or hours, passed. The coat still hung, the mug sat waiting, her scent drifting in the air. He walked slowly to the kitchen, picked up the mug, stared at the cold tea. He sank onto the couch, elbows on knees, heart raw. She left because he couldn't speak, because he hadn't learned how. He thought she'd wait, but she was never the type to wait. She was the type to knock and walk away if no one answered. What followed wasn't heartbreak. It was awareness, unbearable and consuming, of what his silence had cost them. She left with grace and dignity, taking the part of him that hadn't yet learned to speak. He remained until dusk, until the room was hushed and heavy. Then he found her note, tucked in a borrowed book. You make the world quieter. That's why I like being near you. He read it 3 times, folded it, then stepped to the window and whispered, I love you too. But she wasn't there to hear it. The next days moved like water under ice, muted and threatening to crack. He went through the motions, office, emails, meetings, but something inside him had gone missing. Colleagues noticed his dulled edge, asked if he was okay. He lied. Tired. But queasier than fatigue was absence. Layla's brief presence had uncovered emptiness he didn't know existed. He didn't move the blanket, didn't wash the mug. Her photo remained, half hidden behind books, waiting. On the 8th day, he found himself parked across from her tutoring center. Kids came and went, but not her. He remembered how she spoke about her students, the pride she carried. He left before she saw him. Later, he drafted an apology email, 2 words in the body, I'm sorry. Then he deleted it. Instead, he searched her name and found a university newsletter announcing her Larkson Fellowship ceremony in 2 days. At the award ceremony, he stayed in the back, unseen. When she walked on stage, in navy, composed, something in him cracked open. She accepted the fellowship, and in her speech she said, I've learned that being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. Sometimes letting someone care for you is the bravest thing you can do. Her words cut through the hush of the crowd. He didn't speak to her afterward. Instead, he slipped out to a florist, bought white tulips, and placed them at her dorm foyer that evening. She didn't reply, until she did. I saw the tulips. They're my favorite. You remembered. Then, I'm not ready to come back, but I haven't stopped thinking about that night, or what you didn't say. He texted, neither have I. It wasn't a reunion. It wasn't a promise. But it was something. A week of silence passed. But this time, it wasn't hollow. It felt like space between verses, a pause pregnant with music. She thought of his words often. Not obsessively, but tenderly, like a secret in her coat pocket. Neither have I. One night, she visited a diner by the Charles, where fog rolled between streetlights. An elderly woman named Ruth joined her for soup. When Isla shared her story, snow, fear, and a man who carried her, the woman responded. There are 2 kinds of men in this world. Those who wait for you to fall, and those who build their arms like nets before you do. Most people, though, they're too bruised to know which is which. That night, back in her apartment, she whispered into empty air, I miss you, Malcolm. Not 24 hours later, her phone rang. His name lit up like a beacon. She answered, Isla. He braved the call. I hope this isn't too much. She answered, I'm glad you called. They spoke for 2 hours, her students, his meetings, the ache of unfinished moments. At the end, they agreed on coffee, public, no pressure. When she arrived 10 minutes late, his smile shifted gravity. They sat across from one another, grounded. I didn't know if I could trust what I felt, she admitted. If it was real, or just what I wanted. He kept his hands visible. I didn't know either. But I never doubted I wanted you safe. That part was always true. She nodded. I wasn't running from you. I was running from what it meant to need someone. He met her gaze. Maybe we both needed space to know it wasn't just one night. They sat close until snowflakes began to fall. Paths were unspoken. They stood, stepped outside together, side by side. If I fall again, she whispered. Don't catch me, he answered. Walk beside me. He brushed a snowflake from her sleeve. That's exactly what I'll do. They weren't saving each other. They were choosing to stay. Snow returned to Boston, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Isla stood by her apartment window, breathing in the quiet grace of 2 hearts learning to belong. Snow flutters against the glass, soft, familiar, yet oddly unsettling. Nearly 1 year has passed since that night on the bench when Malcolm lifted her from the cold without asking, whispering, "You're safe with me. Let's go." That singular moment cleaved her life into two parts, before and after, before she learned to trust, before she allowed herself to be seen. In the years since, they've met twice a week, coffee shops, bookstores, silent walks. The space between them has settled into something undefined. Not love, not yet, but no longer fragile uncertainty. Malcolm has changed, too. His company launched a free tutoring initiative for Roxbury high schoolers, a program Isla helped design privately, without credit. She still tutors at the university and works long hours, but now she has a key to his apartment. Not to stay, just to play the piano in the den when the world feels too loud. On the anniversary of their night, he sent a simple text. "Meet me where it started." Wrapped in a camel coat, navy scarf, fleece-lined boots, knit gloves, and beanie, she walks through soft snow, her heart thrumming with anticipation, memory veiled in calm. At the old bench on Commonwealth Avenue, Malcolm stands. No car, no driver. Beside him, a portable heater, folded quilt, thermos of hot cocoa, and 2 chocolate croissants. He smiles when she approaches. "You're late." "You're absurd," she teases, laughter already warm. He hands her the thermos. "I thought about that night. How scared you must have been. How close I came to making it worse." She waves her hand. "You didn't make it worse or better. You just showed up. That's what I remember." They sip cocoa in silence, the colder air softened by steam and presence. Then he brings out a small, tissue-wrapped bundle. "I wanted to give you this here, not because it's dramatic, but because this spot means more to me than 1,000 rooftop restaurants." She unfolds a silver snowflake pendant, delicate, imperfect. "It's flawed," she murmurs, tracing its ridges. "Like that night. Like me. Like you." His voice softens, but it held. "And I think what we're building is meant to hold too." Looking at him now, she doesn't see a CEO or sharp suits or a Beacon Hill mansion. She sees the man who waited quietly, who let her return in pieces, never trying to smooth her edges. "You know," she whispers, "I almost didn't let you carry me that night." "I know," he nods. "I never would have blamed you if you hadn't." She blinks, something fragile in her eyes. "But you did. And I didn't stop you. I guess that was the moment I started to believe again." He takes her gloved hand. "And I've been walking beside you ever since." As the sun dips, melting the snow into orange light, passers-by drift by, curious, uninterested. No one interrupts. Before they head back, she turns, voice quiet. "You said I was safe with you. But what if now I want to protect you?" He arches an eyebrow. "From what?" She meets his gaze. "From loneliness. From feeling unseen. From holding everyone else together, while never being held." He doesn't answer at once. Then he draws her close. Not for show, but just enough so her head rests on his shoulder. He whispers into her hair. "I don't feel alone when you're here." She exhales, something she didn't expect. They walk home together in silence. Their silence now not absence, but the presence of trust. And sometimes, that's louder than any words. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel.